Welcome to another video. On April 11, 2025, the U.S. Customs Service issued a seemingly innocuous memo titled Updated Guidance, Reciprocal Tariff Exclusion for Specified Products. It exempted semiconductors, flash storage, smartphones, tablet computers, notebook computers, and display modules from the Trump administration's reciprocal tariffs on Chinese imports. Following a 90-day pause on broader tariffs announced earlier in February 2025, this move marked another significant backdown from President Donald Trump's aggressive trade policy. While the exemptions preserved the U.S. tech industry, they did little for ordinary Americans grappling with 145% tariffs on daily essentials like clothing, toys, and medicine. The policy underscored a stark reality. The administration prioritized the wealthy over the working class, deepened economic inequality, and set the U.S. on a path toward isolation and decline. Over the next 3 years, these choices will fracture America's economy and society while the rest of the world, led by a pragmatic China, unites to sustain global trade and prosperity. In this video, we analyze and predict what is happening and going to happen to America and the rest of the world. Before I go further, we need your support to continue bringing you the latest news, analysis, and live information. Please give us your support, smash the like button, comment, share, and subscribe to all. In fact, all these had already been predicted in a book written 2 years ago. In 2023, I wrote a book called China 2023, the epic of global dominance, about China achieving global dominance in 2023. That's right, China already achieved global dominance. It already happened. My book is an unbiased analysis of how it happened, the history of China's reemergence in the short span of the past 40 years. My book also predicted China's rapid high-tech revolution, Russia winning the Ukraine war, the decoupling of the world into two camps of the global South and the West. The goal of China is to bring prosperity and harmony to the world. All my predictions have become reality. This power shift has deep and far-reaching impacts on the future of humanity. Please click the links below to view my book and purchase. We need your support to continue. Back to the subject of today's episode. The backdown, a policy favoring the elite. Trump's tariffs were sold as a populist crusade to revive American manufacturing and reduce reliance on China. In his January 2025 inauguration speech, he promised a 60% tariff on Chinese goods to bring jobs home. Yet, by February, cracks appeared. A 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs signaled logistical chaos. Supply chains couldn't pivot overnight, and businesses faced collapse. The April exemption for tech products was a louder admission of failure. Semiconductors and smartphones, critical to giants like Apple and Intel, were spared, ensuring Silicon Valley's profits and Wall Street's tech stock surge. Meanwhile, tariffs on everyday goods, socks, diapers, canned food, remained at 145%. Driving inflation to 20% by mid-2025, the highest since the 1970s. For ordinary Americans, the exemptions were a betrayal. Consider Sarah, a 34-year-old single mother in Ohio, once employed at an auto parts factory. By April 2025, her town's supermarket shelves are half empty, a loaf of bread costs $8, and diapers are a luxury at $45 a pack. Sarah's story mirrors millions. The middle and working classes face skyrocketing prices while tech moguls thrive. Small businesses, reliant on affordable Chinese imports, shutter at record rates. 30% of U.S. retailers report losses by June 2025. The policy's bias is clear. It shields the rich, who benefit from stable tech prices, while the poor bear the brunt of inflation. The exemptions also debunked Trump's manufacturing revival. Factories didn't return. The Rust Belt stayed rusty. A 2025 study by the Economic Policy Institute estimated that tariffs created only 10,000 jobs, mostly low-wage, while costing 200,000 due to higher input costs. The tech exemptions ensured corporations could import components tariff-free, undermining incentives to build domestic plants. Trump's vision of Made in America collapsed under the weight of economic reality. Economic fallout, inflation, and inequality. The tariffs' most immediate impact was inflation, which reshaped American life. By July 2025, the Consumer Price Index reported a 22% annual increase, driven by tariff goods. Gas hit $7 a gallon, rent rose 15%, and food prices doubled for many staples. Supermarkets, once symbols of abundance, became battlegrounds. In Chicago, riots erupted outside a Walmart with bare shelves, protesters chanting, "No tariffs, no hunger." Sarah, now working 2 jobs, joined a food bank line, her son clutching a donated toy made in China. Ironically, the stock market reflected the divide. Tech indices like the Nasdaq soared 25% post-exemption, but retail and manufacturing sectors tanked. Walmart and Target shares dropped 40% by August 2025, signaling a consumer collapse. The debt market wobbled as the U.S., having difficulties raising new debts, borrowed $2 trillion at high costs to cover tariff revenue shortfalls, pushing national debt to $38 trillion. Economists warned of a tipping point. A 2025 Moody's report downgraded U.S. credit to A-, citing policy-induced instability. Social unrest grew. Protests, initially sporadic, became daily by fall 2025. In Ohio, Sarah attended a community meeting where organizer Maria declared, "They're saving billionaires while we starve." Polls reflected the anger. Trump's approval rating fell to 40%, with 60% of voters regretting his second term, per a September 2025 Gallup survey. The tariffs, once a populist rallying cry, were now a symbol of betrayal. Geopolitical miscalculation, begging China. Trump's tariffs aimed to weaken China, but they backfired. Beijing retaliated with surgical precision, imposing 100% tariffs on U.S. exports like soybeans, wheat, cars, and tech components. By April 2025, U.S. agricultural exports to China plummeted 80%, devastating Midwest farmers. China didn't beg, it pivoted. It sourced soybeans from Brazil and wheat from Russia. In a humiliating April 2025 call, Trump urged Xi Jinping to resume buying U.S. goods. Xi's response, calm and untranslated, left no doubt. China held the upper hand. Globally, the tariffs eroded U.S. credibility. Allies like Canada and the EU, stung by secondary tariff effects, distanced themselves. A July 2025 G7 summit saw France and Germany propose a post-American trade framework. Developing nations, once reliant on U.S. aid, turned to China's tariff-free zones. In Lagos, Nigeria, markets buzzed with affordable Chinese solar panels and smartphones by June 2025. A vendor told reporters, "China delivers." America argues. Anti-U.S. sentiment surged. Posts on X captured the mood. U.S. tariffs equals global chaos, read one viral thread with 2 million views. A 2025 Pew Global survey found 70% of respondents viewed the U.S. as unreliable, up from 40% in 2020. Former allies saw America as a bully, its policies erratic and mean. The damage was self-inflicted and, many argued, irreversible. China's rise. A reluctant leader, China didn't seek to replace America, but U.S. missteps forced its hand. By July 2025, Beijing hosted a summit with 50 nations, launching a global free trade pact. It slashed tariffs for partners, invested $500 billion in African infrastructure, and shared 5G and AI tech with Asia and Latin America. The yuan gained traction, used in 30% of global trade by late 2025, per the IMF. China's market, 1.4 billion consumers, and industrial capacity made it indispensable. Unlike U.S. hegemony, China's leadership was pragmatic, not domineering. It didn't demand ideological loyalty, only mutual benefit. A 2025 Xinhua editorial stated, "We unite to stabilize, not to conquer." Europe bought Chinese chips, Africa adopted its renewables, and India partnered on AI. The world saw China as reliable, its factories humming while America's rusted. Predictions: America's decline, the world's rebirth, 2026. Year 1, in the U.S., inflation hits 25%, eroding savings and wages. Sarah's town loses its last grocery store. She drives 30 miles for overpriced food. Schools cut programs, her son's lunch program ends. The economy contracts 3%, per a 2026 CBO report, as retail collapses. Tech remains a bright spot, but its profits flow offshore to tax havens. The debt market teeters, U.S. borrowing costs rise as China sells $200 billion in treasury bonds. Protests turn violent, 100,000 march in D.C., demanding tariff repeal. Trump doubles down, blaming China, but his base fractures. Globally, China's trade pact grows to 70 nations. The yuan rivals the dollar in Asia. Europe's growth stabilizes at 2%, powered by Chinese tech. Africa's GDP rises 5%, fueled by infrastructure. The U.S. is absent from a Shanghai Trade Expo, its pavilion empty. Global growth hits 3%, proving the world doesn't need America. 2027. Year 2, America's collapse accelerates. Inflation nears 40%, wiping out the middle class. Sarah loses her home to foreclosure, moving to a shelter. The stock market crashed 30% as Walmart and Amazon fold. Tech moguls flee to Singapore, taking wealth with them. The Rust Belt is a wasteland. Detroit's population drops 20%. China's tariffs persist. No U.S. exports recover. The dollar loses 50% of its value, per a 2027 BIS report. Riots are nightly. Militias form, some blaming China, others the government. Some states are asking for independence. Trump faces impeachment calls as midterms flip Congress. The world thrives. China's pact includes 100 nations. A Jakarta high-speed rail, Beijing-funded, opens. African 5G networks, Chinese-built, connect 500 million. The UN sidelines the US on trade rules. Global GDP grows 3.5%, led by China's 6% expansion. The US is a cautionary tale, its isolation self-inflicted. 2028, Year 3. The US is a failed state. Inflation tops 100%. The dollar is worthless. Bartering replaces cash. Sarah trades clothes for food. Supermarkets are relics. Communities rely on gardens. Tech is gone. Its firms now Chinese or European. Riots define cities. Times Square's billboards are dark. Trump's term ends in chaos. His legacy a fractured nation. A 2028 Brookings report estimates GDP at 50% of 2025 levels. China's tariffs never lift, sealing America's export death. Globally, Beijing hosts a 120-nation expo. Chinese fusion reactors power Europe. African drones dominate markets. Indian AI leads. The yuan is the trade currency. Global GDP grows 4%, resilient despite America's collapse. China unites, not rules, saving trade from US-induced chaos. The world pities America but moves on. Conclusion: a self-inflicted wound. The tariff exemptions of April 2025 were a pivot point, exposing the flaws in Trump's economic nationalism. They saved tech giants but abandoned ordinary Americans to inflation and scarcity. The policy didn't break China, it broke America, isolating it from a world that embraced China's stability. Voters who backed Trump's second term, knowing his 60% tariff plan against China, now face the consequences. Empty shelves, shattered dreams, a nation in ruins. China didn't want leadership, but America's retreat left no choice. By 2028, China unites a vibrant world, its markets and tech-sustaining growth. The US, meanwhile, is a warning. Hubris and division lead to collapse. The damage is irreversible, but lessons remain. Will America rebuild or fade further? The world, thriving without it, waits for no one. Thank you for watching. We need your support to continue bringing you the latest news, analysis, and live information. Please give us your support, smash the like button, comment, share and subscribe to all. Click on the links below to view and purchase my book. Thank you for your support.